Hey, it's Sparky Fifer, 12:50 a.m., beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Time for another edition of Green and Growing, along with my guy Nathan Marzion. Follow him on Twitter at Nathan Marzion. Follow me at Sparky Radio. Of course, after each and every Milwaukee Bucks game, including every playoff game, you like the switch 12:50 a.m. The Fan, and check out the Potawatomi Sportsbook Pros post-game show served up by Wendy's. When the Bucks win, you win. Get that small frosty right within 24 hours after a Bucks victory. Nathan and I like our frosties. And hopefully we will be getting Frosties after a victory coming up on Sunday night as the Bucks play the Pacers at Fifer Forum, game number 1 for the series. I don't know if Giannis is playing or not. Somebody told me on Pat Bev's podcast that he said everybody's playing. Who knows? I have no idea. But the question is simple. How do the Bucks win this series versus the Indiana Pacers? So you could have two versions, Marzion. You could have one version with Giannis playing in the series, and then you could have another version without Giannis playing in the series. I hope I did not complicate that too much because I did not warn you of that. So go ahead.
I think regardless of if Giannis is playing or not, and my best guess is it sounds like he's probably out for game one. And then after that, you're not sure when he'll return. But I could see around game 3, there's a nice full 2-day break between games 2 and 3 where they travel, and I could see that being the time he comes back. But regardless of when Giannis is playing or not, obviously the main thing with this Pacers team is stopping the transition, the fast break points. This is a super fast-paced team, high-powered offense. They are, the number 2 offense in the league, I believe, and they like to run. They like to get out and push it. They are young. They are quick. They are fast, and that's something the Bucks have struggled with at times this year. Is those type of teams have given them fits. Now, again, I don't think that's as much of a problem usually in the playoffs because the game does slow down. It's more half-court offense and a little bit more physical, less of the fast break type of play. But you're still going to have to deal with that. They're still going to try to run. They're still going to try to push the pace. And for an older team, a slower team like the Bucks, that's going to have to be a point of emphasis is getting back, not falling asleep at all. When the shot goes up, you can't just be watching. You got to be getting back. You got to be making sure you're picking up your guys so you're not allowing these easy buckets. So regardless of Giannis playing or not, that is a huge key, is that fast break stuff. When Giannis is in the game, feeding him is going to be massive because the Pacers do not protect the rim well at all. I think they're either the first or second most points in the paint allowed on the year. And Giannis feasted against them all season. I know they didn't win all the games, but Giannis himself had fantastic games. He had the 64-point game. He had a 54-point game. He had another 40-something point game. So he has completely dominated against them. And so I think just making sure he's getting his touches down low and going to work, because they're just probably not going to have much of an answer. I know they did acquire Siakam since then, so they have a little bit more size down low, but still, I just don't think there's going to be a ton of resistance. And when Giannis is not in the game, making sure that you're using Brook Lopez that way is going to be big. They like to obviously use him on the perimeter a lot with his shooting and stuff, but me and you have talked about wanting to see him in the post more, wanting to see him use his size and really be used not like that every single possession, but just use him like, he's 7 foot. Use him like a 7-footer sometimes, and it doesn't always have to be shooting threes. It doesn't always have to be on the perimeter. Get him down low and get him posting up and get him, the ball where he can get some easy looks and really just use his size to get easy points. So, again, against a team that struggled to defend the paint this year, I think that using those two big guys, even Bobby Portis when he's in there, getting him his touches, I know he can be hit or miss, but like just feeding the guys that have size and really using that to your advantage will be big.
The other thing I'm curious about is who's coming off the bench, who's getting minutes in this thing. Doc Rivers came out and talked about Andre Jackson being a relief pitcher, called Marzion Beauchamp, so he's not playing. Obviously, we still don't have his name down. So Andre Jackson, AJ Green, Crowder, Beverly, right? I mean, who's coming off the bench, do you think? Which 3 or 4 guys? Does he go 4 guys? Does he stay with just 3 guys off of the bench kind of in this thing? Because if Giannis is playing, that means Bobby Portis is off the bench. Great. If Giannis isn't playing, that means Bobby Portis is in the starting lineup. So there's 2 different versions of this as well, Nathan.
Yeah, I think that if Giannis is out, then Bobby Portis is in the starting lineup because you have to match the size of, they're gonna have Siakam and Turner out there, so you want to have two bigger guys out there. So I think again, when Giannis is out, you've got Bobby starting and you've probably got um Jay, Pat, Malik off the bench. Because I think Patrick Beverly will start. So I think those are the three you start with. I mean, I don't trust that he's going to give Andre Jackson run. As he said, it's more of a relief pitcher type of thing. I actually think it's a pretty good analogy of like it's not someone that you can guarantee is going to play every game or pitch every game, but it's like there's going to be situations where you do throw that guy in there. You do need that guy. And so that seems like a pretty good analogy to me. And then like I don't trust that AJ Green or Andre Jackson will be consistent every game type of players. Um, I as much as I like AJ Green, I just don't, at least to start, I don't see him playing over Pat. I don't see him getting those minutes. So again, I would guess that it's, the starting five plus Malik J Pat, or when Giannis is in there, the starting five plus Malik J Pat Bobby, and you might play Malik J less when Giannis is playing, yada yada. But I think it's going to be those 8 to 9 guys to start this thing.
All right, now let's talk about the guy that we didn't bring up, because if this series is about size, where's our boy Gallinari at? You didn't bring Gallinari up. I mean, he's got size, big, tall, goofy white dude. He's got lots of size. He doesn't provide anything, but he's got size. So, and he's a vet, played under Doc before, knows where he's supposed to be. Does Gallinari get minutes in this series because of the size differential?
I I don't think so, and I hope not. I mean, they're like you need. I mean, the first thing you got to be able to do is play effective basketball. I mean, that's the first thing. It's like I'm not throwing a guy out there that has size that can't play. So no offense, Gallinari, but I
Oh no, of
just
course not. No, no. Oh.
but I just no, I'm not throwing a guy out there just for size. The only time would be if there's some big foul trouble and Giannis is out, and it's like, okay, well, we don't like if Brooke or Bobby is in major foul trouble and you really, really need size, fine. But it's an emergency thing. It's not something I'm going in planning to like play Gallinari. And there's a chance too. Like I'm guessing Bobby will start and Brooke, but there is a chance they maybe bring Bobby off the bench to try to stagger those minutes a little bit so that you're never left with moments where you don't have either of those guys out there. Because obviously losing Giannis, without Giannis, you're down a big. So it's like they might, instead of saying we'll play two at once, they might say we'll start Brooke and then Brooke will come out for Bobby, and that way we always have one of those guys in at a time. I don't know. We'll see. But it's just not a thing where I'm planning to play Gallinari at all. I'm not planning to play that dude in a playoff series based on anything we've seen this season.
All right, let's talk about it from the head coaching standpoint. I'm going to ask this on Friday on Wisconsin Sports Daily as we record this on Thursday night. Where's the coaching advantage? Who's got the coaching advantage? I mean, both these dudes have won one championship. Both of these dudes have been in the playoffs a bunch. Both of these dudes are respected amongst players, I would say, between Carlisle and Doc Rivers. Who has the coaching advantage in this series, would you say?
I mean, I would say Carlisle as of now. I hope I'm pleasantly surprised and Doc is able to outcoach him. And I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but just based on what I know and what I've seen, like I would guess it's Carlisle. I think Doc is still trying to figure out his way, and not having Giannis will throw a wrench in the works of now Doc has to deal with that and maneuver around that a little bit. So we're gonna see how it plays out. If the Bucks, come out and their game plan is really good and they're, again, feeding those guys down low, stopping everything in transition. All right, I'll be surprised, and I'll, maybe at that point say, hey, Doc's out coaching him. But I think Carlisle's a really good coach. I've always respected him. So I think he gets the slight edge. It's not anything though to me that is like I'm totally worried about this series because they have Carlisle and we have Doc. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it. Sure, they might have a slight advantage, but the only time that I really get worried is when you're going up against the best coaches of the Spoelstras of the world, where it's like, okay, that's a pretty big advantage, and I really think that anytime in a close game, I'm gonna lean towards Spoelstra. Like those are the extreme scenarios that make you really uncomfortable, I guess. But in a situation like this, I think Doc can at least not be massively outcoached or anything.
All right, let's talk about another factor in this deal. When you start talking about Bucks and Pacers and how this whole thing plays out, that's free throws. You know, this Bucks team has games where they get to free throw line a lot, normally Giannis, and there's other games where they barely get to the free throw line outside of Giannis. And Damian Lillard really has struggled since the end of January. Now, here down the stretch, he's had a couple of games where he got to the line like at 14 attempts in a couple of games where he was going pretty good. But now, as you always say, it's a different season. It's a new season. This is not like the regular season. Games are called differently. What are you expecting from the referees in this playoffs? Do you think they let them play more, less fouls called? Do you think the continuations come back to life again and they start blowing the whistle again now that we're in the playoffs for continuations? Or do you think it's similar to what we've seen so far here in the last couple of months?
Yeah, I think it'll be. I'm hoping it's similar to what we've seen in the last couple months. I don't. Usually, what happens is they play the whole regular season like they did the first half of this season, where you can get to the line pretty much at will almost, and there's just a ton of free throws, and it sometimes gets a little ridiculous. And then they ramp it up. They tighten it up in the playoffs and don't call it as much. They've kind of already done that, so I don't necessarily want to see them take what's already been done, which is good in limiting the free throws, and then limit it even further and make it like impossible to get free throws. I don't want it to be free throws should still be a part of the game. You should still be rewarded if you can draw contact and stuff. I don't want them to go too far the opposite direction, but I do expect it to be pretty much what it's been like the last half of the season, where it's been harder to get to the line. The Bucks and Pacers haven't faced off in the back half of the season at all. So the 5 times they faced off were when they were still calling it, pretty loosely. So it'll be interesting to see. But looking at the numbers on the year, free throws, it is a pretty interesting thing in this series because the Pacers allow the most free throw attempts in the NBA on the season, and the Bucks get to the line the third most in the NBA. So that could be an advantage. Obviously, not having Giannis affects that for any games he's not playing, but still, I think, again, with the Pacers struggling to defend the paint and just not having a good defense in general, they do foul a lot. They, aren't very good really in any areas defensively. That's a big weakness of theirs. Is just the whole defensive end. It's a team that, will put up 130 on you, but will then give up 125 to 135. So the Bucks should still get to the line. I still expect Dame can get to the line. And, again, I think if, again, if Giannis is out, Brook could be someone that gets to the line a little bit more. If you're using him correctly, you can get him down low, get fouls on their big guys. So it's just something that I think the Bucks hopefully can recognize and say, hey, this is one of their, they have a lot of weaknesses defensively, but one of them is fouling a lot. We like to get to the line. Like, let's use that to our advantage. Again, not something you want to necessarily rely on in the playoffs, given that you don't know exactly how it's going to be called, but it's something that you want to have in your bag of okay, this is something we should be able to do, is get to the line a decent amount, and the Bucks should be able to do that in this matchup.
Great and Growing Podcast, Steve Sparky Fifer. Check me out after games on 1250 AM The Fan, Potawatomi Sportsbook Pro Hoops post-game show. If you miss any of them, served up by Wendy's. If you miss any of them, you can go to 1250amthefan.com, find the podcast landing page, and listen to it that way, or download and listen for free on your Odyssey app. He is Nathan Marzion. Follow him at Twitter at Nathan Marzion. How much faith do you have this Bucks team will control their emotions? Nathan Marzion. Will Brook Lopez be able to control his emotions when he doesn't get a call to go his way? Will Damian Lillard control his emotions as he's sitting on the ground for the 15th time in the game with no call and no whistle? Or will he sit down on that end and wait for everybody to come back? See, that is something that I think has irritated Doc to no end. I know it's irritated me to no end. Do we think this changes in the playoffs, or do we think it gets worse and gets ratcheted up because now there's more pressure in a, win or lose situation and go home?
There are still going to be the moments where these guys are frustrated. These guys show emotion. They get a little too emotional. There'll be some text, whatever. But with the veteran team, a team that has been here in these situations before, is not going to be phased by the intensity level, is not going to be phased too much by the, just the pressure of these games. I think they'll be able to keep their composure. And it's actually something that I'm interested to see with Indiana, because Indiana was the team, they were talking a lot of smack to the Bucks during the regular season and really getting chippy with them. I don't think the Bucks started a ton of that. I think a lot of it was Indiana. being a young team and just being that team that's kind of a little cocky, and they had the right to be against us. They beat us, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle it, given that it's a lot of their players, first times in these situations, and they're a young team, and will they be able to keep their composure and not let the intensity and the pressure get to them and cause them to get overly emotional. That was something that I think it was Dame talked about. They asked him about the chippiness and yeah, things have gotten chippy between you guys during those 5 regular season games. And he said right away, he's like, yeah, but I don't want us to go in and get too overly emotional. Like, we got to stay kind of level headed. Because if you get overly emotional, you become vulnerable, and you become you can really become just have a little bit of a target on your back, and it's like that just makes you weaker, I guess, in a lot of senses. Now, you can be emotional at the right level and use it to your advantage and be amped up and be um energetic and all that stuff. Like that's what Bobby Portis does a lot, is use that emotion to your advantage. But if you let it go too far, um it's a bad thing, and it's something that all of a sudden is hurting you. So I think they know this. It's something that Dame's already talked about, and being veterans, I do trust that they'll keep it in check enough to not let it be something that hurts them.
Are you a fan of Malik Beasley running his mouth in this series? They go back, they pull old footage from him about him saying, "Yeah, well, we're probably going to see him in the playoffs, and they're not going to want to see us," or whatever the case may be. So then they come back to him this week. They bring it up again. He doesn't backtrack. He doesn't recant. He says it a second time. Week of game 1 is Sunday. Beasley's still running his mouth this week. Beasley hasn't played all that well to begin with here lately. So it's probably going to be more than Beasley that's going to have to win this game. I don't think you're going to rely on Beasley to hit 6 threes in a game. You like that from Malik Beasley going into this series against the Pacers?
Yeah, I mean, you got to stand on it. You got to I mean, you don't have to double down, but you just have to. You're not going to backtrack. You're not going to say, "Oh, I mean, maybe I said that before, but yeah, we're not as confident now." No, you're going to say, "Hey, we believe that this is going to be a bad series for them. We believe that." He said, I think the quote was, "It's not going to be pretty for them." And he was like, "Yeah, I still believe that. I believe it's not going to be pretty for them. I believe we're gonna beat them." So there's no reason to go back on that. There's no reason to, like, this is, we want the smoke. We want all this stuff. Like, if we lose, we're gonna hear about it regardless. So you might as well be amped up, be confident, be ready. Um, and it's just like it's something that he already had said months ago, beginning of the season. So it's like, why backtrack on it now? We still believe this. Um, so I personally have no problem with it. Like, when you say something like that, the worst thing to do, in my opinion, is back off of it, because then it just shows like, oh, you're losing confidence, or you're scared, or whatever, or worried. It's like, you can't go into a series like that. Like, you got to go in believing you're going to win, believing that you can do what you said you were going to do, and you still feel that way. So, and I don't even know if he brought it up himself. Like, I think they asked him about it. So it's like, well, if they ask you about it, you're going to answer the question. Like, and so it's not like he went out of his way to go say it again and say, "Oh, the Pacers are trash," or something like that. Like, no, he just basically kind of said, "Yeah, I still believe that," and there's no problem with that for me.
Here's Nathan Marzion. Follow him on Twitter at Nathan Marzion. Follow me at Sparky Radio, Green and Growing Podcast. Download it wherever you download your favorite podcast at, including, of course, your Odyssey app. Also want to check us out on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page. Marzion, let's make some predictions here. Bucks, Pacers. What you going with?
I think I'm gonna go with the classic Bucks and 6.
I thought you were going to go Pacers sweep.
No. I think until Giannis comes back, you just got to tread water, and I think you got to try to split games. Like, if Giannis misses the first 2, the goal is to be 1-1. If he misses the first 4, the goal is to be 2-2. Just don't fall behind 2-0. Don't fall behind 3-0. Don't fall behind 3-1. Like, something where you're in a desperate position. That's the goal. So, and I think they can do that. I don't think this is and I think that they're much more equipped, as I mentioned before. They're much more equipped this year to handle not having Giannis than I think they were last year, given that you have a whole week plus to prepare for that, and to know that, okay, we're probably going to be without Giannis for a couple games here, and B, having a now your number one option be someone that has experience as a number one option. This isn't Chris or Drew that you're just throwing in to a position that they're not really meant to be in as a number one option. It's like, no, this is Dame Lillard. Like he's done this before. This isn't anything he's not used to. He has shown he can carry a load. He's done it this year for us plenty of times when Giannis has been out. Had a couple 40-ish point games or whatever it was, and beat the Suns and like stuff like that. Beat the Clippers without Giannis. It's like he's shown he can carry the load for us for a couple games, And so I have confidence he can at least split games while Giannis is out, and then when Giannis comes back, how good he's been against the Pacers this season. Like there's good reason to believe like we would win those games when Giannis is back, or at least a good amount of them. Having home court, obviously, I like that. Just given how good we've been at home compared to on the road this season. So just get into a position where you're 1-1 after 2, 2-2 after 5 or after 4, and like if you can stay in there, which isn't unreasonable to me at all, like that to me, you're still in a good position. If you're 2-2 after 4 and you get Giannis back, this is if Giannis doesn't even come back till game 5, let's say. If you're 2-2 after 4 and you're getting Giannis back for game 5 and you've got 2 out of 3 at home, you're in fine shape. So just kind of tread water till he hopefully returns.
All right. You said Bucks in 6. I think I'll go with you Bucks in 6. This is my thing. They really have to win game 1 here. You just have to win game 1. That if you win game 1, you give yourself a lot of breathing room. There's a couple of things that happen. You get some momentum back, right? Win the first game of the series. You win it at home. Your crowd's going crazy. Everybody's pumped up in town. So now we're coming back Tuesday thinking, okay, here we go. Yeah, we didn't have Giannis, but we won the game. Feeling better about this series. We know we can beat them. Pacers, on the other hand, now maybe they have a little bit of doubt. This is a little bit different Bucks team. Now, remember the last time, Bruce Brown, Matherin, they're not playing this series for the Pacers. So that helps, especially not dealing with Bruce Brown anymore. So that really helps. So if you win game 1, I feel much better. If you lose Sunday, when you and I come back to record this Monday, I'm not going to be feeling very good about things. I mean, unless it's something where, they lose on a last-second shot. God forbid it's Halliburton. But, Pacers win on some last-second shot, and it's close, and they're there at the end and just can't finish without Giannis. I'll still be okay. Okay, you lost game 1, but you have every opportunity to win game 2. It's not like they blew you out. You're fine. But perfect scenario for me is you win game 1. Now pressure's on them to try and figure out how to get a second game here before you go back to Indiana to pull advantage back to the Pacers. I love that scenario. I do not like a scenario where you lose by 10 or 12 points Sunday night, and now you have desperately need to figure out a way to win on Tuesday so you don't go down 0-2 heading back to Indiana.
Yeah, game 1 is definitely big. Again, for me, I'm more looking at it in a 2-game, the first 2 games kind of together of like split that somehow. Obviously, I think it's best to just win game 1 and then you don't have as much pressure on game 2. But like for me, it's like if they lose game 1, yes, I'll be upset. It'll suck. It'll be not a good sign. You want to get momentum back with the team struggling a little bit and just like, again, come out with a statement. But I wouldn't be, very worried until if they lost game 2 and went down 2-0. Because to me, it's like no matter how it happens, if you're 1-1 after 2 without Giannis, I can live with that. Like that's fine. I'm fine with that. So I'm not gonna freak out until after game 2, no matter what. But yeah, game 1, if you can come out and look good and bring the energy and just look like a team that flipped a little bit of a switch, I don't think it'll look night and day without Giannis. I still think there's going to be some struggles. But if you can just look like a team that like, okay, Dame looks better, and these guys look like the intensity's ramped up a little bit, defensively will be a big test because of how good that Indiana offense is. So like if you can play well defensively, just signs that, okay, this team is locked in for the playoffs. Yeah, it'll be a big confidence booster and something that I think will help them the rest of the series. Like you said, I really just don't want to get, punked in game 1 where it's, you're trailing by double digits for most of the game or something like that. And you really just don't feel like you're in it and they don't have much energy. And, you want to look competitive. You want to look like it's the playoffs. And again, I give them some margin for error because or some room for error because they don't have Giannis. I don't expect it to be perfect, but like you can't go out and look flat in the first game of the playoffs after how flat they've looked to end the regular season. Like there has to be some level of urgency and intensity and all that. So look good for game one, hopefully get the win, and then we'll be in a much better spot and we will be a little bit more comfortable.
All right, got a few minutes left here. Your thoughts on the play-in tournament on the east side of things? New York and Philly. Oh, that's great. They're going to beat the crap out of each other. Like, I'm all for that as a series. Y'all have fun with each other there. And I'm not quite so sure Embiid looked like Embiid necessarily. I think he still didn't look all the way back, but he looks good enough to be a presence to make Philadelphia dangerous. Bill Ryder was talking about it earlier today on SSP about the fact of, Embiid hits a couple of threes. Now you got to play up. And as soon as you do that, that opens up the floor for everybody else to be wide open, taking shots too, and how much Embiid changes the floor. I as a fan, I love those two teams playing each other because, yes, Milwaukee and Indiana will probably be physical to a degree, but I don't think it'll be like that series, Nathan.
Yeah, that'll be a really good series. I mean, I wanted to get Philly Boston just for the sake of it guarantees that one of my two least favorite teams will lose in the first round and I can make fun of them. But I still think, yeah, Philly, New York, like that'll be a very good series. That'll be, and like you said, from a fan perspective, just entertainment wise, like that's going to be super fun to watch. It'll be interesting to see like how. I just don't feel like Embiid is a very physical player, and it'll be interesting to see how he handles arguably the most physical team in the league. Because he just seems like a little bit more of a, again, foul baiting type of player, and a little bit of like the jump shots rather than driving to the paint. Like he's like the reverse, the reverse of Giannis as far as a big man goes, where he's a little bit more finesse and not as much power, not as much, just physicalness getting to the hole. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they match up. And I know the Knicks are a really good offensive rebounding team, and the Sixers haven't been a very good defensive rebounding team. So that'll be something to watch as well. Yeah, like you said, I mean, if the Bucks do win, that matchup could end up, helping us later because, as you said, those teams could beat the crap out of each other, and maybe that series can go 7 and really tire those teams out. So if they do play the Bucks, they're already a little worn out. So will be fun to watch. And I now it's like I don't even know who I care to get the 8 seed because Miami's banged up. The Bulls are not very good. Whoever wins that is probably getting destroyed by Boston. So
Yeah, I agree. Definitely getting destroyed by Boston. Speaking of destroyed, are they going to destroy that Golden State team this offseason, Nathan Marzion?
I don't know. I mean, I think they should. I think it's time, but I just think it's always hard for a GM and the coach and everything to like really say goodbye. And especially if you do think that like Steph is still this, that good. If you think Clay still got it left in him, I know he looked terrible. I know he hasn't looked very good, but if you still believe in your guy, and Draymond kind of what he gives you. He's not always going to be a scorer or anything like that, but he gives you the intangibles. Like if you still believe in that and you believe that the young guys take a leap, I could see them saying, "Hey, let's try another year. Let's see if we can still, get one more year out of these guys." But I don't know. Again, if I was running the team, I probably would just say it's time to kind of move on. It's time to get off, the Clay thing completely, and just like it's time. But well, we'll see.
If they blow it up, does Steph Curry demand to stay, or does Steph Curry go and say, I got to go somewhere else? I'm not going through a rebuild. I got an email today from my guy, Jimmy Shapiro, over at Bet Online. Odds on where Steph Curry goes. Who do you think the favorite is at 2-1 odds of where Steph Curry goes this offseason? If he doesn't stay in Golden State, right? Take the Warriors out of it. If he doesn't stay in Golden State, where do you think 2-1 odds are that he ends up this offseason?
I'm just thinking, like, the team that I've always thought if he doesn't play for the Warriors, he would play for is Charlotte. But I don't, in this situation, it wouldn't make sense because, like, you're not going to a better team or a team where you can compete.
Hornets are
Who is
one of the top 3 or 4 teams listed, I
who's
believe. Yeah.
who's 2-1?
San Antonio Spurs. Could you
That
imagine Curry and Wembanyama?
that'd
Holy
be fun.
crap.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be unbelievable. And he goes to play for Popovich. That's the one thing people don't understand. People want to play for Wembanyama, obviously, but these stars have played for Pop in the Olympics. So the opportunity to go play for Pops, over there in San Antonio is going to be appealing. There's going to be something to it. Could you see LeBron in San Antonio with Curry and Wembanyama leaving the Lakers, and those three go and do damage with the Spurs? They're going to get stars. I don't see any way that they don't get stars to play with Wembanyama, and then Popovich as the coach. I think that's bound to happen without question. All right, that'll do it for another edition of Green and Growing. There he is, Nathan Marzion. What are the plans for the weekend, Mr. Marzion? What are you doing?
Stress, eat, sleep, stress some more, nervous. I'm just kidding. No, I'm gonna be with my friends and stuff, and I'm trying to enjoy the time, like these last few days, like this whole week. I've kind of tried to like unwind and be like, okay, it's gonna be stressful once it starts, and we don't know how long it's gonna go. But like the whole playoffs is like either the Bucks are playing that day, or the Bucks just played yesterday and now play tomorrow. Like pretty much so the whole way you're like just thinking about the Bucks, the Bucks, the Bucks, the Bucks. And so it's just like I know that's coming, and so I'm kind of trying to just like enjoy my life right now because it's about to start. The whole roller coaster and
Yep.
the stress of it. So yeah, I mean, this weekend I'll probably be just with some friends, and not a ton going on. Like Friday night are the NBA games, but like, or I guess Saturday the playoffs start, right? Yeah, because Sunday is the second day of games,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, Saturday I'll watch some games and stuff like that. So that'll be fun.
Good. Very good. There it is, Nathan Marzion. Follow him on Twitter, Nathan Marzion. Follow me at Sparky Radio. Thanks for tuning into another edition of Green and Growing. We'll do this again coming up on Monday night. Have a good one. Toodles.